If you're a tech seller that's struggling to qualify leads and generate quality opportunities, then you need to understand the BANT lead qualification framework. So in this free tech sales lesson, we're going to go through the BANT framework, how it applies to us as tech sellers, and how we can ask specific questions using the BANT methodology to ensure that you are generating quality opportunities. If you haven't met me before, my name is Jameel. I'm the founder of Tech Sales Academy. I'm a former 2x top 1% account executive at Cisco and Telstra Enterprise who's transitioned into technology sales coaching for the next generation of AEs and BDMs, understanding how painful it is to get your start in technology sales. And there's a few vendors down there that reckon I do a pretty good job at it as well. All right. So what is the BANT framework? Okay, it's a basic qualification framework for your leads to make sure that you are pursuing quality opportunities. And what it does is it checks off the most important elements of the sales opportunity to make sure that it's an op worth pursuing. And those basics are budget, authority, needs, and time. Those are the absolute fundamentals you need to know about every opportunity to make sure that this is a quality conversation opportunity worth pursuing. So why do we use BANT and why do we use frameworks? Well, again, you might get quality leads, hopefully, but you need to make sure that those leads are worth pursuing, are in alignment between what you offer as a solution and what your potential customer needs to have their problem solved. When you are qualifying leads, the best qualified leads have the highest potential to close. The more of the boxes you can tick, the more alignment, the higher chance that you have of actually closing the deal. And if you want to be a great tech seller, you need to be qualifying your leads as much as you can so you can be as efficient in your sales process to smash your quota, which saves you time in your selling day and also doesn't waste your customers' time either. So when do we use the BANT framework? Well, for any qualifying framework, you should be using this during the qualification of your opportunities onwards. You really don't have opportunities until they are qualified from a lead. So if you look at that stack there, it is really the first thing that you should be doing once you get a lead generated. So if you have been an SDR, then you would be generating leads. Your role as an AE would be to then qualify those leads and then develop them down to close. You should be asking these BANT questions that I'll provide you in your first discovery meeting onwards, when you're having your first intro meeting with the customer, to understand and make sure that you are qualifying, that you are ticking the right boxes. And of the four, BANT, needs and timing are the most important to discovering the opportunity first, because the authority and the budget can be worked around if the need is strong enough. First of all, we need to talk about budget in BANT, and that is determining if your prospect, your potential customer, actually has the financial means and resources to invest in this solution. Because if there's no budget, well, then they can't afford this solution and there's no sale. Okay, so usually when it comes to budgeting, your budgets, or the customer's budget rather, is often set at the start of the financial year. They've usually forecast some, forthcoming projects, and they'll have some money set aside. Sometimes you will get, something might pop up depending on what you sell, where you might have to scrounge for some extra budget, but generally there will be funds allocated, and you have to understand whether you are in that benchmark or within that budget itself. Some of the best questions to ask to understand your budget are just simple and direct, okay? There's no need to fluff around with questions. Getting to the point, just being direct really helps the process, shows that you're not there to BS the customer. So something as simple as, have you allocated any budget for this project or solution, right? Are you actually in the market? You're ready to spend money for the right solution? Yes or no? Are there any financial constraints we need to be aware of or should be aware of? So maybe it is a bit out of budget. Maybe they are just shopping around right now, but the budget isn't available until next financial year. Okay? It's important to understand what are the challenges of the customer, because they might not be readily available to buy right now. And then for context, to get an understanding of whether you are in budget, you can ask this question. For context, similar solutions typically range between X and Y. Is that aligned with what you're planning for this initiative, right? Are we in the ballpark of what you can afford for this project? Yes or no? Is there any flexibility around that? Next up, we have the authority. That's the A in BANT. And authority is identifying the person or persons who can actually make the investment decision, who actually has the power to approve the purchase inside the business. Now, in tech sales, depending on how much the budget is or how much the solution costs and the delegation of what that person has to make purchases, Usually the IT manager, a CTO or a CIO, or potentially a CFO has the authority to make these purchase decisions if it's a major one. If it's a really big decision, it might even go to a board, but that really depends if you are, creating multi-million-dollar solutions. Hopefully you are. Now, the authority to actually purchase something can be at multiple levels. So maybe it might be the IT manager has some approvals, but it needs to be double checked by the CTO or the CIO. And it really does depend on the size of it, but you really want to understand and have those people in the process as much as you can so that you are giving them the value of the solution, they understand the benefit of it, and then will authorize the funds and make sure that they procure it. Some ways to discover and identify who has the authority. Again, simple, direct questions. Who will be involved in making the final decision? Who is going to be ticking off the wallet, making the approvals? Really simple, direct question. Is this investment within your delegation? So maybe it is a larger purchase and the IT manager, who might just have a particular amount of budget, can't make this purchase decision. He would have to ask the CIO. It's really important to understand that, to make sure that you are communicating value to the right people, because at the end of the day, it's the person that actually can afford to pay for it that is the most important that you need to deal with, who is your primary financial stakeholder. It's also very important to ask what their approval process looks like. They might have multiple levels of approval, multiple people need to check it off. Again, if it goes to a board, there could be time delays for that to happen. So you need to understand how much time process you've got between the opportunity discovered to closing it, which is also useful for your forecasting and also helping the customer strategically plan when they should be putting a purchase order in, because it lines up with when they need the solution to be delivered. And then again, asking a broader question, is there anyone else we should include in our next conversation to ensure alignment? This is seeing who else is in here, because very often you might even be speaking to someone in the business that likes your product, but doesn't have the authority to buy it. Okay, it could just be an engineer, some sort of rep, a smaller person, and they might have questions and be like, how can this help me? But again, they'll have to go up to someone higher. And you need to have these multi-level conversations with your customers to make sure the right people are on board to invest in the solution. Next up, we have need, okay? And this is probably the most important one, a fundamental, but I think the BANT just sounds better instead of NBAT or whatever it is. But need is simple. You need to understand what is the pain point, what is the problem that you are solving with the solution. Because if you haven't identified a problem to begin with, then there's no solution needed, and then probably not even going to engage with you in the first place. Or you haven't identified how big this need is. Is that a nice to have or a need to have sold? That's the best way to determine how much need there actually is for your solutions. And in the pre-sales process, understanding this need is really important, because you have to align the benefits of your solution to those needs. How are you solving the customer's problems? How do you line that up? That is an important part of what you do as a tech seller. Some of the questions that you'll probably ask, what are the challenges you are currently facing with your current solution, if at all? Is this a new business problem? Are they dissatisfied with what they've currently got? You need to understand that and really dig into those pain points and ask, what are the implications? What are the challenges? How much does this hurt you? Which is what we ask further down. A nice question to ask is, what about us brought you in to discuss this? Because when you have a lead that's generated, you've triggered something in the customer to go, hey, there's some potential value for me here. I want to pursue this further. So asking the customer directly what that is just a really simple and effective way to know what did they resonate with to create value for them and to reach out to you, and then see if you can double down and dig into that and align that to how you can solve their problem. Okay, that's the spark that got them there in the first place. Is this project tied to a strategic outcome in the business? Again, we're trying to understand the need. Is this part of a bigger picture? Is this going to make the people that procure this, more important in the business? Is this going to improve their status? Is this part of a bigger play that is very important to the business, which creates more urgency and more need? You need to understand that and not just focus on your product and that's it. What would an ideal solution look like for you? So how, in their minds, would they have this problem solved as best they could? Now, that might not be the most concrete answer because they don't know how to solve the problem, and it's your role as a salesperson to understand, uncover those needs, particularly If you want to get really good at sales, you uncover needs deeper than they even understand it themselves. And then you expand again on how your solution and those benefits link to their problems and solve that problem for them. The next or the last of BANT is time. So time determines the customer urgency and timeline to make a purchase decision. Now, a really important aspect of understanding customers in sales is that customers only buy when they need their problem solved. They only buy on the timeline for them to show value inside their business, to look good to their leaders, to their people, etc. That is the number one driver of timing and urgency in an opportunity. And when you understand that, that is the best way to be able to forecast when your opportunities are going to close and how you should be sort of shaping your deals and the progress that you need to make in the opportunity to make sure that you reach the right timing for your customer. Okay, one of the most effective ways that you can deliver value for your customer and your pipeline is to reverse engineer from when the customer needs to have value delivered to the business and work backwards from there. So some questions that you should be using in the BANT framework for timing. When are you hoping to have this solution in place? Right? Simple, direct. When do you need this in the business? To go even deeper, which might even be a broader question, is when does this need to deliver value to the business? Right? Do they have any particular deadlines? Again, if you can figure that out, that's a really important way for the people that are involved in the purchase decision to look good to their business and to their leaders. So reverse engineering from that time frame from there and going backwards from there. Again, to generate urgency and make sure the timing is right and make sure that this is a critical solution that they need to procure. What would happen if this wasn't solved in time? Or what would happen if you did nothing about this? This is a great way to ask and find out what the risk is involved if they didn't do anything, because risk aversion is twice as powerful than an incentive, right? We would rather avoid fear, avoid pain than walk towards incentive. So if nothing would happen, if they didn't do anything about it, they're not going to have any urgency to procure, and it might decrease the quality of this opportunity, might not even close at all as they focus on other priorities inside the business. Okay, so very important to get your timing right as well as needs. To wrap this all up and put this all into a simple checklist, I've reprioritized what the BANT checklist should be and what you should know in every opportunity. And that is number one, you understand the needs of your customer to get your solution and solve their problem. You've identified the problem, they have a need, they like your solution, and they see how it can benefit them. Number two is you know the timing of when they need their problem solved, and you can time the purchase accordingly, making sure that you've got a good ramp way of designing the solution, making sure that the commercials are right, all of that to make sure that you've got a purchase in time for it to deliver value to them and their customers potentially. The customer actually has budget to afford this solution. You know, if this is a big enough project, if this is a cool enough solution that you've got, you know, so budget can be moved around and can be created if need so. And then the person with authority to make the purchase is involved and approves. So generally, you will find the right authority. You can create champions inside the opportunity. So people that love the product and maybe want to go internally sell it to a CTO, a CFO, the board, somewhere higher up. So finding that person with authority is important and making sure that they're involved in as much of the pre-sales conversation as possible. In summary here, the BANT framework is a fantastic fundamental checklist that you should learn to understand and use for all of your leads and qualifying them into your opportunities. You want to make sure that you're ticking off the budget, the authority, the needs, and the time. And you should be using these questions from your first discovery meeting onwards. You know, you might not get information in the first meeting. Maybe they don't know their budgets. Maybe they don't know their timeframes, but you should be making sure that you tick these off throughout the pre-sales process before you get to a proposal as much as you can. And to help you on your journey, I've provided this pack available to you, which you can find below somewhere. Okay. And that's it for this free tech sales lesson. I hope you've really enjoyed it. If you would love more tech sales tips, make sure to check out the free Tech Sales Mentorship course. It is designed to give you the fundamentals of what it means to be a great tech seller based on my 10 years of tech sales experience and coaching over 50 AEs. Okay, you can check that out at school.com/Tech Sales Academy, and I'll see you soon.